Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
You're listening to someone speak English. You understand every word, but suddenly they speed up and you're completely lost. It's frustrating, confusing, and it makes you feel like you'll never really understand native speakers. But here's the truth. Understanding fast English isn't about listening harder, it's about listening smarter. Welcome to Easy English Talk Podcast. I'm Ryan, and with me today is my co-host Priya. Today we're discussing how to understand fast English.
Thanks, Ryan, and I'm so glad we're talking about this because I think this is one of the biggest struggles for English learners everywhere. People study for years, know thousands of words, but still can't follow a normal conversation.
Exactly, and that's because fast English isn't just about speed, it's about rhythm, shortcuts, and patterns that no one really teaches you. So today, we're going to break it all down in a way that actually makes sense.
Perfect. So let's start with the problem. Why is fast English so hard to understand in the first place? What's really going on when someone speaks quickly?
Well, the first reason is that native speakers don't speak the way textbooks teach. In textbooks, every word is clear, separate, and perfectly pronounced. But in real life, words blend together, sounds disappear, and sentences get shorter.
Right. So, for example, instead of saying, "What are you going to do?" a native speaker might say, "What you gonna do?" The words merge, the sounds change, and suddenly it sounds like a completely different sentence.
Exactly. And if you've only learned formal, slow English, your brain isn't trained to recognize those shortcuts. So when someone speaks naturally, it feels like they're speaking a different language. And that's really discouraging.
It is. And another big problem is that learners focus too much on individual words. They try to catch every single word in a sentence, but native speakers don't emphasize every word equally.
That's such an important point. In English, we stress certain words and soften others. The stressed words carry the meaning, and the unstressed words are almost thrown away. So, if you're trying to hear everything, you'll get overwhelmed and miss the main message.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. If I say, "I'm going to the store to buy some milk," the key words are going, store, buy, and milk. The other words, I'm, to the, some, they're almost invisible in natural speech.
Right, but if you're not used to that rhythm, you might get stuck on the small words, and by the time you figure them out, the speaker has already moved on. So you end up feeling lost and confused.
And there's another layer to this problem. English has a lot of sounds that are very similar, like can and can't, or 15 and 50.
Oh, that's a tricky one, because in fast speech, the difference between those sounds is tiny, and if you're not listening for the stress pattern, you might completely misunderstand the meaning. Like, I can help you versus I can't help you. Totally opposite meanings.
Exactly. And this is even harder when people use contractions. I'll, we'd, they've. These all get shortened and blended into the flow. So if you're not familiar with contractions, fast English becomes almost impossible to follow.
Right, and another challenge is accent and pronunciation variety. English is spoken all over the world, and each accent has its own rhythm, speed, and way of cutting sounds.
That's so true. Someone from London sounds different from someone in Texas. Someone from Australia sounds different from someone in New York. And each accent has its own rhythm, speed, and way of cutting sounds.
Exactly. So the problem isn't just speed, it's variety, rhythm, shortcuts, and stress patterns. And most learners are never taught how to deal with all of that. They just keep listening and hoping it'll click one day.
But hoping isn't a strategy, right? You need a clear plan and specific techniques. So let's talk about solutions, real, practical ways to train your ear and understand fast English.
Perfect. Let's start with the first solution. Stop trying to understand every single word. This is huge. Most learners think they need to catch 100% of what they hear, but native speakers don't even do that.
Right. Native speakers focus on the meaning, not the words. They listen for the main ideas, the stressed words, the emotional tone, and they fill in the gaps with context.
Exactly. So if you miss one or two small words, it doesn't matter. As long as you catch the important words, you'll understand the message. This mindset shift alone will reduce your stress and improve your listening immediately.
I love that. So instead of panicking when you miss something, just keep listening. Focus on the big picture. Ask yourself, what is the speaker trying to say? Not, what was that exact word?
Exactly. Now, the second solution is to learn the most common contractions and shortcuts, because once you know them, your brain will start recognizing them automatically, and that makes everything faster and easier.
Right. So instead of hearing wanna as a strange sound, you'll know it means want to. Instead of gonna, you'll recognize going to. Instead of coulda, you'll hear could have.
Exactly. And there are maybe 20 or 30 of these shortcuts that show up constantly in English. Learn them, practice them, and your comprehension will improve dramatically. You can even make flashcards or a list and review them regularly.
That's a great idea. And another powerful technique is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and immediately repeating it out loud. You try to match the speaker's speed, rhythm, and intonation exactly.
Yes, shadowing trains your mouth and your ear at the same time. When you speak the way native speakers speak, you start to hear the way they hear, and that makes understanding fast English much more natural.
Exactly. So find a short video or audio clip, maybe 30 seconds long, listen to one sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly as you heard it. Do this over and over until you can match the speed and rhythm perfectly.
Right. And at first, it might feel awkward or difficult, but after a few sessions, you'll notice that your brain starts picking up patterns. You'll hear the shortcuts, the stress, the rhythm, all automatically.
I love that. Now, here's another important technique. Listen to the same material multiple times. Most learners listen to something once and then move on, but repetition is where real understanding happens.
Absolutely. The first time you listen, you might catch 40%. The second time, maybe 60%. By the third or fourth time, you'll understand almost everything.
Exactly. And this doesn't mean you're slow. It means you're training your brain. Native speakers have heard English thousands of times in thousands of situations. You're just building that same foundation, but faster.
Right. So pick a short podcast episode, a YouTube video, or a movie scene. Listen to it 3 or 4 times over a few days. Each time you'll notice new details, new words, new patterns.
That's such a practical tip. And here's another one. Use subtitles strategically. Now, I know some people say, never use subtitles, they're a crutch. But I think subtitles can actually help if you use them the right way.
I agree. The key is to not rely on them completely. So here's what I recommend. First, watch or listen without subtitles. Try to understand as much as you can using only your ears.
Right. Then watch again with English subtitles, not your native language, but English subtitles. This helps you connect the sounds you're hearing with the actual words. You'll start to see, oh, that's how going to sounds when it's spoken fast.
Exactly. And then, if you want, watch one more time without subtitles. Now you'll understand much more because your brain has made those connections. This 3-step method is powerful and efficient.
I love that. And speaking of efficiency, here's another tip. Focus on content you actually enjoy. If you're forcing yourself to listen to boring material, you won't stay motivated. But if you choose topics you care about, learning becomes easier and more fun.
Absolutely. If you love cooking, watch cooking shows in English. If you love technology, listen to tech podcasts. If you love sports, follow sports commentary.
Right, because when you're interested, your brain pays closer attention. You're not just trying to understand the language, you're trying to understand the content. And that makes the whole process more natural.
Exactly. And here's another strategy that's often overlooked. Learn common phrases, not just individual words. Because in fast English, people don't speak word by word, they speak in chunks. So if you know the chunks, you'll recognize them instantly.
Right. So instead of learning going to and have separately, learn the whole phrase going to have. When you hear it in conversation, your brain will recognize it as one unit.
Exactly. And there are hundreds of these common phrases in English. Things like, I'm about to, let me know, as far as I know, it depends on. Once you learn them as complete phrases, listening becomes so much easier.
That's such a smart approach. And another technique is to practice listening in noisy environments. I know that sounds strange, but hear me out. In real life, you won't always be in a quiet room with perfect audio.
Right. You'll be in a cafe, on a bus, at a party. There will be background noise, other voices, distractions. So if you only practice listening in perfect conditions, you're not preparing yourself for reality.
Exactly. So try listening to English while you're cooking, walking, or doing chores. Let there be some noise around you. This trains your brain to focus on the speaker even when the environment isn't perfect.
That's a great point. And here's another one. Pay attention to body language and context. Understanding fast English isn't just about your ears, it's about your eyes and your brain too. When you watch videos, notice facial expressions, gestures, and the situation.
Right. If someone says something you don't fully catch, but they're smiling and pointing at food, you can probably guess they're talking about eating or a meal. Context clues fill in the gaps that your ears might miss.
Exactly. And this is why watching videos is often better than just listening to audio. You get visual information that helps you understand faster and more accurately. Your brain pieces together the full picture.
I love that. Now, let's talk about something that might sound obvious but is often forgotten. Slow down your own speaking first. If you speak clearly and at a natural pace, you'll start to hear the rhythm of English better, and that rhythm is the key to understanding fast speech.
That's so true. When you practice speaking with good rhythm, stress, and intonation, your brain starts to recognize those same patterns when you listen. It's like learning music. Once you can play it, you can hear it more clearly.
Exactly. So don't just focus on listening. Practice speaking out loud every day. Read sentences, talk to yourself, record your voice, and listen back. This will improve both your speaking and your listening at the same time.
Right. And here's a fun exercise. Try speaking faster yourself. Take a simple sentence like, I want to go to the store, and say it slowly at first. Then gradually speed it up until it sounds more like, I want to go to the store.
Yes, that's a great exercise because you're training your mouth to make the same shortcuts native speakers make. And once your mouth knows how to do it, your ear will recognize it more easily. It's all connected.
Absolutely. Now another really helpful tip. Use apps and tools designed for listening practice. There are apps that let you slow down audio without changing the pitch. This way, you can hear fast speech more clearly and then gradually increase the speed.
Right. Apps like that are amazing because they give you control. You can listen to the same sentence at 50% speed, then 75%, then full speed. Each time, your brain adjusts and learns to process faster input.
Exactly. And this is especially useful for beginners or intermediate learners. You're not skipping steps, you're building your skill gradually and confidently. And confidence is a huge part of understanding fast English.
Absolutely. And speaking of confidence, here's something important. Don't be afraid to ask people to repeat themselves. In real conversations, if you don't understand something, it's completely normal to say, "Sorry, can you say that again?" Native speakers do this too.
Right. And often when you ask someone to repeat, they'll slow down a little or use simpler words. This gives you another chance to understand. And over time, you'll need to ask less and less because your listening will improve.
Exactly. So don't feel embarrassed. Asking for clarification is a sign of good communication, not weakness. And in fact, it shows that you're actively engaged and trying to understand. That's a positive thing.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about another useful strategy. Listen to a variety of English accents. Don't just stick to one accent or one type of speaker. Expose yourself to British English, American English, Australian English, Indian English, all of it.
Yes, because the more variety you hear, the more flexible your brain becomes. You start to recognize patterns that are common across all accents, and you stop getting thrown off when someone sounds a little different.
Exactly. And this doesn't mean you have to study every accent deeply. Just listen to different speakers regularly. Watch movies from different countries, listen to podcasts with international guests, follow YouTubers from around the world.
Right, and over time, your brain will start to adapt. You'll notice that even though accents are different, the grammar, the rhythm, and the common phrases are often the same. That makes understanding much easier.
Absolutely. And here's another tip that's often forgotten. Practice listening without looking at a screen. I know we live in a visual world, but sometimes it's good to close your eyes and just listen. This forces your ears to do all the work.
That's a great point. When you remove the visual support, you rely completely on your listening skills, and that actually makes your ears stronger. So try listening to podcasts while walking or play an audio lesson while doing dishes.
Exactly. And at first, it might feel harder, but that's a good thing. It means you're challenging yourself. And challenge is how you grow.
Absolutely. Now, here's something else that can really help. Learn the most common words in English. Research shows that just 1,000 words make up about 80% of everyday conversation. So if you know those words really well, you'll understand most of what you hear.
Right. And when I say know them well, I don't just mean recognize them in writing. I mean recognize them in fast speech, with all the shortcuts and blending. That's the real test.
Exactly. So make a list of the most common words and practice listening to them in different sentences. Hear how they sound when they're stressed, unstressed, contracted, or blended. This will make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And here's another technique. After you listen to something, try to summarize it out loud. Don't worry about being perfect. Just say what you understood in your own words. This helps you check your comprehension and reinforces what you learned.
Yes, and if you find that you can't summarize it, that's a sign you need to listen again. It's not a failure, it's feedback, and feedback helps you improve faster.
Exactly. And over time, you'll notice that your summaries get clearer and more detailed. That's proof that your listening is improving, and that's really motivating.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about mindset for a moment. Understanding fast English takes time. You won't go from struggling to fluent overnight.
Right, and that's okay. Progress is not linear. Some days you'll feel great, and some days you'll feel stuck. But as long as you keep practicing consistently, you will improve.
Exactly. And consistency is more important than intensity. It's better to listen for 15 minutes every day than to listen for 2 hours once a week. Your brain needs regular exposure to build those listening muscles.
Absolutely. So make listening a daily habit. Even if it's just one podcast episode, one YouTube video, or one song, every bit of practice counts.
Yes, and remember, mistakes are part of the process. If you misunderstand something, that's not a problem. It's a learning opportunity. Figure out what you missed, listen again, and move forward.
Exactly. And one more thing, celebrate your progress. Notice when you understand a phrase you didn't understand before. Notice when you catch a contraction or a fast sentence.
Right, because those small wins add up, and they remind you you're moving in the right direction. Learning English is a journey, and every step forward matters.
Absolutely. So to wrap up, let's quickly go over the key ideas we talked about today. First, stop trying to catch every single word. Focus on the meaning instead.
Second, learn common contractions and shortcuts so your brain recognizes them automatically.
Right. And use techniques like shadowing, repetition, and subtitles to train your ear. Listen to content you enjoy. Practice speaking out loud and expose yourself to different accents. And, most importantly, be patient with yourself and stay consistent.
Exactly. Understanding fast English is a skill you can absolutely develop. It's not about talent or luck. It's about using the right strategies and practicing regularly. And if you do that, you'll see real progress.
So, don't give up. Keep listening, keep learning, and trust the process. You've got this, and we're here to support you every step of the way.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Easy English Talk podcast.
We hope this conversation gave you some practical tools and a lot of confidence. If you enjoyed this, make sure to check out our other episodes on topics like improving your pronunciation, building your vocabulary, and speaking more naturally.
Yes, we'd love for you to join us again. And remember, learning English is a journey, not a race. Take it one day at a time and enjoy the process.
Thanks again for being here. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and keep growing. See you soon.